laps. Mileage is no problem, but picking all the fuel up is.
The field completing its first of 2 laps. They are now on the pace lap. Plenty of long time. Have to be very careful at this point not to burn too much of that fuel. Here is the Ford telemetry. It is in Raul Boisel's car, so we'll be able to do some comparisons between the Ford and the Chevrolet engine as they perform here. You will also see it coming out of Brayton and Cheever's machine. Eddie Cheever, yes, very definitely back, but Derek Daly, a bit of a switch coming up. You'll be with us for the next IndyCar races, and Eddie Cheever is going to take your place in the Formula One booth.
Well, luckily we haven't had too many clashes this year, but Cheever does have a bit of experience working on Italian television. Now he'll have to use his best English on the F1 broadcasts. But
first he has an IndyCar race to drive here today. Let's go pit side again. Here's Gary Gerald.
Paul, to follow up on that fuel business, it's always been a critical concern anytime you come to Road America. But it's interesting that with the telemetry that you've been just talking about and experiencing there, it has really improved the fuel situation over the last couple of years because it's easier to manage that fuel situation now. Some of the teams are very, very confident going into this race. They'd like to see a couple of laps of full course yellow to take away some of the concern. But nonetheless, it's not like it was 2 or 3 years ago because that telemetry gives them so much information so often that it's easier now to manage from the cockpit. Remember, they can start rich at 100%. They can dial it down to 98%, 96%, lean the engine down to conserve fuel if necessary. The telemetry will tell them whether or not there's that need early in the competition.
Just to cap the fuel story, CART or IndyCar do not give you an unlimited amount of fuel. They just give you enough that if your car does 1.8 miles to the gallon, you will have enough fuel to do it. If your car doesn't do 1.8, you won't have enough fuel in the car or in the tank in the pit lane.
And without that telemetry, if you would go under the start-finish line bridge and your fuel warning light on your computer dash panel begin to indicate you're in trouble, your chances of making it to the end of that 4-mile lap are very slim indeed. Roberto Guerrero. The stats on Roberto. This morning in the warm-up session, he got off the course and into one of the gravel pits. Fortunately, no damage to that race car. Down toward Canada Corner, the north end of the circuit here. Wide out section on this racetrack. Top speeds coming here as the field's still in single file. There's Eddie Cheever. He'll be driving the 90 car this weekend.
This is a 2-race deal for Cheever, not just this race, but he'll also go to the oval track in Nazareth. And Cheever, he tells me, is close to putting a full season's deal together for next year because his IndyCar career, he said, is only just beginning.
Got a glimpse there of Danny Sullivan as he upshifted on the straightaway of some smoke. Now the course marshals, all volunteers here, are saying that there is some display of vapor at the back of his car, so we'll definitely keep an eye on that particular car. Now as they come off of the 14th turn, the final corner, you'll see the pit exit over to the right. They climb this hill here. Some G-loading right down in the cockpit when they approach here at speed. And Paul Tracy brings the field toward the green flag. Here they come. No start. Yellow flag comes out. Laps will count, but they will not race.
Well, Tracy was clearly ahead of Mansell, but our starter didn't like the formation he saw there, or else further back down the grid. So they go 4 more miles and line up again to do it a second time.
Keeping an eye on Danny Sullivan's car. Again, reported problems with this machine as they came around. Official word on the start exactly as Derek Daly suggested it because the field was not lined up. There's the smoke at the back of that car.
He's in trouble. Sullivan is in trouble. There looks to be too much smoke there for that to be normal.
So Danny Sullivan with a problem. We'll continue to keep an eye on him. Let's take a look at this start again. And it was just simply that Paul Tracy really jumped hard at the start. And more than a half a car length, which is pretty much their guideline.
Yeah, the pole man is supposed to lead the field. If the outside pole man, which is obviously Nigel Mansell, didn't go with them, that was the decision the starter made.
And that was part of a question that came up at Detroit. What if the other guy, the fellow who's not the pole sitter, just jumped out of the throttle because he didn't like the way the start was going? Let the pole sitter surge ahead. Still going to be some questions have to be answered there. Update on Danny Sullivan. Here's Gary Gerald.
Ed Nathman and the Sullivan team huddling here. They've gotten the information from officials around the racetrack. They're speculating it may be a seal around the turbocharger, but obviously they don't know. They're very concerned, Paul.
Well, it's a very prominent display of what looks to be oil vapor at the back of the car. And Danny Sullivan not showing at the moment as we look at the onboard camera, but a very, very serious problem potential for Danny Sullivan. As this is the first lap of the race, because of the fuel situation, they will count this lap and come back hopefully to a green flag as the field realigns. And we'll see if the starter, Jim Swintao, approves of this particular start. Paul Tracy came across the line, looked about almost 2 car lengths ahead of Nigel Mansell. Now Mansell falls in behind, and they'll come into formation here shortly.
This is one of the most difficult areas of the racetrack here. It's a 4th gear left-hander under this bridge. You don't use the brakes, but you have to try and balance the car on the throttle, and only the very good handling cars go through there visually much, much faster than anything else.
Now will they get it right this time? Much of the field is strung out as they come through 14. There is still time for them to align for the trademark of the Indy cars and the flying start. They climb the hill now. The starter gets his first glimpse of them at this moment. And we're green. Paul Tracy surges again to the front of the field. Nigel Mansell chases. Andretti battles for 3rd place against Raul Boisel as Mansell comes in right behind Paul Tracy. And Tracy leads him through the first corner. Now downhill, and a tremendous set of elevation changes at this track. Emerson Fittipaldi looking for racing room as he closes in as well.
Robbie Gordon actually went outside Emerson in that turn 1, but we're inside with Mansell very briefly, right up behind Tracy.
Paul Tracy now has to hold off as Nigel Mansell does everything he can under heavy braking coming down into Station 5. Mario Andretti ducks inside of Nigel Mansell. They climb the hill still in the same order.
Look at Robbie Gordon. Robbie Gordon is flying on this opening lap.
Gordon gets around Al Unser Jr., comes up to the top of the hill. The rest of the field comes through safely. Now Paul Tracy begins to pull away a little bit. Keep an eye on that black car of Robbie Gordon as he lines up behind Raul Boisel. It's Tracy, Mansell, Mario Andretti, Boisel, Robbie Gordon, Al Unser Jr.
Gordon has gone from 8th place right up behind Raul Boisel here.
Gordon made some spectacular moves in the first few corners here as they head to the high-speed side of the back section of the race course. He got off and got back on and kept it under control.
Now he's in trouble though. Look at Al Jr. has the run on him, but he's going to block him. He's going to block him. Look, down the inside.
Little Al looks for room to the outside, can't find it. They go single file through here. Very difficult section of the course as they come up under the bridge. The view from Bobby Rahal as they head for that bridge. Now he's right behind that battle. Through the bend at 13, this is turn 14, and back to the pit straight for the first time in competition today with the 2nd lap of competition. The first one a yellow lap. Despite that miscue on the backside, Robbie Gordon able to hold his position. Right further back in the field as Rahal and Brayton battle.
Rahal not happy with his car. We move forward with Gordon. Look at this dirt still flying off Robbie Gordon's car. Maybe he went off again at turn 1, but Gordon always spectacular. And on the opening laps, he will take the risky moves.
Gordon leans over, checks his mirrors to see Al Unser Jr. and Ari Luyendyk close behind him. Battle for 3rd now begins to close up as Raul Boisel comes up right behind Mario Andretti as they climb the hill, make the left-hand turn at the top. It's a blind corner. Looking for Ford to remedy on Boisel is off the course is Roberto Guerrero. A quick off and back on, and as he climbs that hill and makes the left-hand turn into a section of the course they call Hurry Down. The battle for 3rd once again. There's the telemetry coming out of Raul Boisel's car.
The impressive thing here is the speed. This is the carousel to go through. You can see that 115 miles an hour and accelerate. Now the charge starts. The kink here sometimes is flat. Look, he backs off the throttle. You can see it, that bottom bar. Now the run down to Canada corner where there's a braking zone. Look at this, 195 miles an hour with full fuel load.
We were speculating in the morning lineup when he was running at 191 miles an hour whether or not that wasn't his peak potential speed on full fuel tanks. Obviously, it's not. He's very fast through there.
You can keep looking at the telemetry on this front stretch. Sometimes, depending on how the wind blows, even with this uphill climb here past the pits, this front straight is almost 190 miles an hour sometimes. Let's have a look here. Let's get close. Here you go again. 192 miles an hour on the front straight, 193 down the back.
While this battle for third place is a comparison of two Ford power plants, they are not identical power plants. And as a matter of fact, Dick Simon, the owner of Raul Boisel's car, was complaining that they're not getting the upgrades that are used on the Newman Haas car, which is the primary car for the Ford engine, quite as fast as they would like. Roberto Guerrero comes in. Jan Bikas is there.
The first of the cars to come into the pits. He is missing a front wing, Paul. When he got off the track, he made contact with Cheever. We saw just the end of him off the track. They are going to try and replace that right front wing, but they can't do one wing, Paul. They have to do that entire nose box. You can see that they have those small little cap screws, and they have about 12 of them they have to take out. Right now, they're stuck. This is going to be a long repair for Roberto Guerrero, just coming off his best finish of the season, 4th.
Of course, the question is if there's any problem on Eddie Cheever's car as well. We'll keep an eye on his machine and check for that. Second, third, and fourth. Have they separated their battle for just a moment and head through the carousel? It is Paul Tracy that is still leading Nigel Mansell in the Texaco Haviland 200. Fittipaldi currently runs in 8th place, trying to catch up with the rest of the field. Just moments ago, one car off, Adrian Fernandez dropped the wheel off and caught the barrier very hard and then slid to a stop. That's over on the back side of the course. They have displayed local yellows in that area only. At the moment, there is not an indication of sending the pace car out, putting a full course yellow out, and slowing the field in its entirety. The safety crew is out on the way, of course, to aid Adrian Fernandez, and we'll give you an update there.
And you see it right here. It's one of the most difficult corners here. Right there's safety on the way going to Fernandez. It's right here at the kink. You try to go flat, but if you hit the curb on the inside, you're in all sorts of trouble. That's what happened to Fernandez.
Disabled car, you saw it off the left-hand side of the race course. The course marshals were there with him. The IndyCar safety team will be on the scene in a matter of seconds, and then we'll get a full evaluation as we watch Bobby Rahal work his way through traffic from 10th place. Front of the field remains Tracy, followed by Mansell, then Mario Andretti. Raul Boisel runs in 4th. Robbie Gordon is in 5th right now. Arie Luyendyk, the past few moments, has battled with Al Unser Jr., but Arie is currently in 6th place, followed by Little Al in 7th. Emerson Fittipaldi is 8th. Scott Brayton is 9th, and you ride with the 10th place car of Bobby Rahal.
10th place car of Rahal, not happy. Tested here in July, found a nice setup and couldn't find the sweet spot in this Lola and has struggled all weekend here.
You can see there by the wing that says Bud on it, the 40 car, Roberto Guerrero, is back in competition with a new nose on the car, but well behind. He dropped from 11th to 29th.